Hello everyone, I'm Emily Larlam, aka Kiko Pup on YouTube, and this video is on the topic of teaching your dog to walk on a loose leash towards something he's very excited to get to. So perhaps it is a dog park that he's anticipating playing with other dogs. Perhaps it's getting to your house after getting out of the car, or getting to the car out of exiting your house, or pulling across a road to smell something. So basically, dogs move at a faster pace than we do, and when they know where they want to go, they want to get there fast. So for us, it would be the same as being told to walk this slow when we wanted to get somewhere. It's very stressful and frustrating, but by using positive reinforcement, we can reinforce our dogs for going at the speed that we want them to, and by making what they want to do contingent on walking on a loose leash, we can reinforce the loose leash walking with something they really want. However, if we were just to try and get the dog to walk, stay there, Epic. If we were just going to try and get the dog to walk on a loose leash for the thing that they're very excited about, it's going to be very stressful and frustrating, and if a dog is very aroused, they're not going to learn as well as when they're calm. So we can break the steps up into small steps that are easy and less frustrating for the dog. Some things to work on first to make it easier for your dog to do this type of training is working on a calm settle and a settle on a mat, and I'll link a video in the description below. So another thing you can do is get the dog used to wearing the harness and the leash inside the house, so these don't predict being very excited. So you can just put the harness on and then drop some treats and feed your dog for settling on a leash. Or say, for example, if you have a backyard, you could put the harness on your dog while in the backyard so they don't get all disappointed that they're not going for a walk. Or you can just put the harness and leash on, begin a training session, and then just take the leash off. And then when your dog settles, you can start to reinforce them with food and also work on clipping the leash on when your dog is settled as you feed a treat. So this doesn't mean to get super excited, because if your dog is just getting super excited by the leash and harness, it's really not going to help in the situation where you want your dog to be calm and not pull. It's just going to add to the excitement. So anything that comes before or predicts that the dog is going to have an exciting time and there's a distance between you and where they want to get to, such as going out the door or getting out of a car or being in a car, you can work on calmness in those situations. So for example, right now we can work on just relaxing in front of the door that we go out to the exciting place that she likes to go. So for my dogs, I've been letting them run from my one door down to the, I can't say it because they'll get very excited, where we do training together. So when I try to walk them down on a leash, they get very excited and they pull, and it's extremely embarrassing if I have like a client down there and then my dogs are pulling towards them. It looks like they're completely untrained. So we're gonna work on it, and I thought I would show you the training process. So one thing is working on just being calm before we even start. So if your dog was excited in the car, it's extremely boring training, but you simply need to work on settle in the car. So you can go to the car with a bag of really delicious treats and just work on the dog getting in and out of the crate for treats, and then laying in there for a couple of, a minute or two, and then getting out. And then when your dog is comfortable with the concept of being trained in the car and that they're not going on a journey, you can start to work on a settle where you're just hanging out. But sometimes if you just go straight to the settle, the dog can get a little bit stressed because they think they're going on a car journey and they won't settle. So you can't reinforce them for just relaxing, because they don't relax, they just get more stressed. So if that ever happens, I would discontinue it or see if the dog can take treats or take a break, get out of the car, get back in, and just practice getting in and out of the car. That can help change the picture for the dog to know they're not going to the exciting place and that they can relax a little bit. The other idea is to go places with your dog in your car, have the dog settle in the car with the door open, and then just work on settle in front of the car, or asking your dog to sniff around in a calm manner after getting out, rather than it be about playing. Are you interested in training? I should have trained you first before making this video. Okay. So now we're going to work on settling in front of the door. The other dog that has this issue is this guy. Oh, the other tip is that it's a great idea to, when you first begin this training, is to give the dog some mental and physical stimulation before you do this type of training, which I haven't done with her. So these guys have gone for a walk, and poor little Epic here hasn't had any training or walking yet. So you can see the difference in their behavior. And it's not about a tired dog is a good dog. It's not about tiring the dog out. It's about reducing their excitement about getting to play at this particular moment. Then, when you're having success with this training, you're going to start doing this stuff before the dog goes for a walk or does some physical activity. Okay, so now we're going to practice in front of the door. So this is Wish's settle mat, and I'm going to put it here just so that it makes a different picture than when we usually go out of the DOOR. So here it is over here, and then I'm going to walk her over calmly. Wishy. Good. Good. And I'm using a high rate of reinforcement like this by just dropping treats so that it's a different picture than when we just go out there to do something fun. So then I can sigh, and I can sit down with her, and here comes Epic, and see if she might think to relax. And if not, I can help her by giving her a little hint. So you can just chill and hang out, maybe read a book, or look at your phone next to the door, or in your car with the doors open on a nice cool morning, or just outside of your car if your dog is comfortable in taking treats out there. But if you're in your home and there are no distractions, you can work on some calm handling here, because obviously if you have the treats right near your dog, they might not think to stop thinking about the food. So you could just work on calm handling and treats for just laying calmly, even though their focus is on the treats. Like this. If your dog isn't taking treats near the door, you can first work on the settle in your living room, or just hang out with your dog. Maybe take them out for a toilet break first before then working on this exercise. Now she's doing so good, I'm going to crack the door a little bit. Good. And I'm going to feed her a treat as I open the door like that. So usually the door opening makes them very excited, so I can just practice the door being open while she's settling. And then I can close it again and just practice touching the knob, so the knob doesn't mean get excited. This is actually part of Karen Overall's relaxation protocol, is getting the dog, desensitizing and counter-conditioning the dog to things that make them excited or could make them excited. So the doorknob, the door opening, and you're just working on these don't mean anything exciting. Now the door is open and we can work on settling on the mat again. And then when your dog is really good at that, you can release your dog, let's go, and move away from the mat into your house, and then move back to the mat and lay down again. Good job. And if your dog is really good at that, you can start to go out the door. Let's go. Good. And then come back to the mat. Good job. And you're highly reinforcing your dog for going back to the mat. And as you step, let's go, you feed multiple treats every little mini step you take, and then return to the mat, because most likely your dog will want to run out the door, run out the car to go where they want to go. Now, if your dog isn't taking treats, you can simply get out of the car or get out of the door and then come back in, close the door, and let your dog calm down a little bit. It's a great idea to brush up on your leash walking skills inside the house and in your yard, so your dog has been highly reinforced for walking with you when there hasn't been any sort of conflict. So I suggest doing that first before working on the super exciting thing of pulling towards where they want to get to go. So I actually have a 6-week course on loose leash walking that's on my website, and I'll link that in the description below. But I do have a lot of videos on YouTube that are free. So one of the games you can play is marking and reinforcing for the dog. understanding to stay at your side like this and take a step forward when you take a step forward, and being highly reinforced for this position at your side. And then the other game that you can play is the let's go game, where you take a step and turn in the other direction and mark for your dog choosing to move with you. So if you turn around, your dog turns with you. And I'll link a video in the description below on how to train that. And working on the leash pressure game. So if your dog's excited to get somewhere and they pull on leash, you're teaching them before they do it that when they feel the pressure on leash, it simply means move back to you.
Good boy. Good boy.
The other really awesome game to play with your dog is approaching distractions that are very exciting, but beginning with something that's not too exciting. So you put some treats down on the floor like this. I don't know if you can see them in the shot, but there's some treats down there. And then what I'm going to do is first mark and reinforce the dog for staying at my side, and then taking a mini step forward like this. And then when we get to the treats, I'm going to release her and say, okay, get it, in a calm way. If you say, okay, get it, that can excite the dog quite a lot. So the calmer your release, the better. The next step is seeing if you can take a couple steps forwards and stop before reaching the treats. And then the final step, this way, is seeing if you can walk all the way to the treats, stopping on the way over, and then only getting the treats when you say, okay, go get them. And then what you can do with this is use it for any situation where the dog is focused on getting somewhere, such as crossing the road. You can practice putting the treats in a bowl across the road, or putting the treats somewhere outside and putting a toy. If the dog likes their toy, can you walk on a loose leash to the toy? And that means play. I also have a video on how to teach your dog to be calmer around toys. If you are going somewhere like a park to play with a ball or a frisbee with your dog. I'll link the video on how to teach your dog to be calm around frisbees and toys. But basically it's this game where the dog doesn't know you have it and they're really calm, and then you present it and then you play with them. Ready? Catch? Good. Yeah. Twirl. Get it. Drop. Spin. Get it. Good. Woohoo. Drop. And so now I've got her used to playing with me with the frisbee here, and then I can have the door open, and I actually have this gate here so that I can have my door open and do stuff without worrying about the dogs leaving my house, which is a great idea. You can also have the gate on the outside of the door for safety. And then play with my dog with the door open. Oh, hello. Get it. Drop. It's Halo's turn. Ready? Get it. Good job. And then the next step, if you wanted to work on teaching your dog to be excited about being with you when you leave a car and you have to walk a long distance to a field that's safe to play with them, is you can have your dog on leash, get out of the car, and then play little catch games like this in front of the car. Drop. So at first the dog might not want to play with the toy near you or near the door because they are desperate to get to the area that they anticipate the play. So sometimes when you bring the toy out, they won't even notice it. But what you can do is have the door open a crack where someone's guarding it, or you have a safety method like this, or your dog's on a leash, and you simply wait till they calm down and they want to play with you before you get out the door. And that way, if you have a toy, you have something reinforcing that the dog is anticipating with you, rather than it always being at in the distance. And the same with building your treats to be reinforcing. So this idea of calming the dog down so they're able to work for food is going to mean that everything they want isn't always far away, that they're stressed about getting to, and that you actually control it. And by reducing their excitement about getting to different places, that's highly going to help with the pulling towards the places. Drop. Because even if you work and you proof walking on a loose leash, if the dog is just too excited, that can all just get thrown out the window. Wishy. Boop.
Now we're right outside the front door, and I'm going to encourage Wish to play with the Frisbee with me near the door rather than in the field, so she doesn't have that anticipation of getting all the way down there to have the fun.
Wait. Good job. Sit. Wave. Good. Good. Bring. Drop.
Now I'm going to take a couple of steps towards the destination, and when she's walking nicely on a loose leash, I'm going to turn around and play with her near the front door.
So if you're by your car, you could play with your dog by your car, take a few steps towards the field or the area they're going to play, the dog park. Let's go. Good job. Boom. If your dog pulls ahead, you can simply use the leash pressure game, wait, and make a connection with your dog, and then move forwards. If your dog hits the end of the leash like that, and then you go back, and then you go forward again, the dog most likely is not going to calm down. So you can just walk. If they hit the end of the leash, take some time to get your dog to stay at your side and connect with you before then moving forward again. Good. Get it. Good job. Drop. If your dog pulls ahead like that, you can walk back to the car or the house and see if your dog can connect with you again, and then you can take just a step forward. Good. And then reinforce. I wouldn't worry so much about the dog being perfectly next to you. Drop. You can clean that up later, but simply focus on you want the length of the leash, how you're going to have it, and that the dog's walking on a loose leash. So they're conscious of when they feel the pressure on the leash that they come back to you. So if I wanted to walk my dog on a longer leash, as long as they're staying without leash pressure, then that's awesome. They don't have to be right at your side as long as they're conscious about the leash pressure. If you wanted your dog closer to you when they're excited like this, it's going to be harder, so I suggest just having a short leash so they feel the pressure on the leash when they get too far ahead like that. Good. Boom. Awesome. It's a little tricky playing with a dog and a leash. It's much easier to work on this exercise with treats, but one thing you can do is hold the leash in the opposite hand that the dog's on, and the reinforcement, the treat or the toy, in the hand that the dog is going to be next to your side, so that when the reinforcement comes, it comes from behind the dog. It appears and is anticipated from behind rather than the picture of what they want is in front of them and they pull toward. So that's really going to help. Also, the Frisbee and the food is not in the picture of what the dog can see, so it's easier to fade it to where the dog is just anticipating going where they want to go. Good. Woohoo! The important step to get to the point where you don't need a Frisbee or treats is reinforcing your dog for walking to where they want to go without looking at you. Because that moment that they look where they want to go, most dogs usually start to speed up. So once you're doing really well and you can take quite a few steps towards where you want to go, you're going to start marking when the dog looks at what they want to get to and they're not speeding up. So they're walking at the pace that you want, either a walk or a trot, depending on how fast you walk. Wishy swing. Good. And there I marked her looking back at me. So I'm going to make sure to mark her drop for looking at where we're going. Drop. Ready? So you might just walk a few more steps. Good. Get it. Woohoo. Drop. So now I'm just going to put this down here. Leave it. Good. Get it. Woo. Woohoo! You did it! Boom. You can also practice this off leash. Come on, Wish. Wishy swing. Good. Get it. Good girl. If you're using treats, you can simply mark and reinforce your dog for staying at your side when you've left the car or you've left your front door, and you're just going to mark and reinforce your dog standing at your side and then taking a step forward. Good. And then marking and reinforcing for the dog waiting there, and then you can increase the duration of how long your dog stands, and then you can increase how far you walk, like that. So then you can practice let's go and go back to where you came from, mark and reinforce, and you can ask your dog to settle on a mat if you wish. And then when your dog is doing really good, you can take more steps and mark and reinforce for your dog's facing in the direction and looking at where they want to go. Let's go. Good. Good. Let's go. Good girl. Whoops. If the dog goes out ahead of you, you can lure them back, and also make sure that when you take a step forward like this, that your hand can come in front of them like that and prevent them from spinning in front of you and just facing you like that. So that's why it's a great idea to hold the treats behind you when doing this training, because the treats come from behind and the dog is anticipating reinforcement from behind like that. Good. Awesome. Let's go. Yay! Awesome. Good girl. Woohoo! If you have more than one dog, I suggest working on each dog one at a time while the other dog is put away, maybe in a room with music and a chew toy where they can't hear what's going on in case they get excited about what you're doing. Or maybe you go on an outing with just one dog to the park. Or someone else can walk one of the other dogs or the other dogs while you're working on this training. And then when each dog is doing wonderfully, you can go right back to the start as if you never trained them before to set them up for success, that when they're with each other, things get even calmer. So here we are with Wish and Halo, who are the ones that like to run like the wind down there for training, because they love to play fast games for toys down there. And so here they are settling for food. And then when I begin walking with both, I'm going to say, let's go, and then just feed them here. So I'm not even going to think about having them at my side. I might just feed them in front of me like this for following me, because they have a huge habit of being very excited about racing down there. Good. Wishy. Good. Good.
The leash pressure game tutorial.
This video is on the topic of teaching your puppy what to do when he feels pressure on leash, either when he's run out and hit the end of the leash, or when you've had to add pressure. Say, for example, your puppy runs into the road and you need to move your puppy out of the road using leash pressure. Now, of course, you can pick your puppy up in emergencies, but if you have a puppy that's going to turn into a larger adult dog, at some point in his life, you're going to have to move your puppy with the leash. Now, without any prior training, most puppies and dogs, when you pull on their leash, they, one, find it aversive, and two, usually lean the other way. The same with human beings. If you had a harness tied around your chest with a leash coming out of it and someone pulled on it, you naturally would counterbalance by leaning backwards rather than just following whoever pulls you. So basically, in this exercise, we're teaching puppies that when they feel the pressure on the leash, It's simply a cue saying, come with me, we're moving in a different direction. And by creating a positive association with the feeling of pressure on the leash, it simply becomes a cue for the dog to want to move with you. Now, if you work on this exercise with a young puppy right from the beginning, before the puppy starts pulling a lot on the leash when you're out and about, it actually can teach your puppy to walk on a loose leash. This is because if you work on the exercise enough, your dog is going to have a conditioned response where they feel the pressure on the leash and it will cue them to come back to you.
Here are some exercises you should work on first before playing the leash pressure game with your puppy. This is because you want to reinforce your puppy for moving towards you, moving with you, and moving with you when you make direction changes. And once you've reinforced all of these behaviors, it will make it way easier for the puppy to want to choose to move with you when you add the leash pressure. In my opinion, the 4 exercises that you want to work on first are the attention game, the recall, reinforcing your puppy for standing next to you and walking next to you, and reinforcing your puppy for direction changes while walking at your side. Check out the written description below for links to video tutorials on how to train these. This is footage of one of our first outings to the park. After letting my puppy explore and sniff the park, I spent 1 to 2 minutes playing the attention game, reinforcing the position at my side, and direction changes. The leash pressure game. Step 1. Add light pressure on the leash as you lower your puppy forward and then feed a treat. The point of this step is to accustom the puppy to the sensation of the leash pressure so it's not a sudden surprise. I suggest attaching the leash to your dog's harness when you play games like this, as well as walk your dog. If you're going to be walking your dog with the leash attached to the front of your dog's harness, you need to work on this exercise with the leash attached to the front as well as the back. Keep an eye on your puppy's tail and make sure it's in a natural position and the puppy is not tucking their tail. If the puppy starts to tuck the tail, you can work on games like the attention game, the recall, as well as handling exercises rather than working on the leash pressure game yet. Step 2. Put a distraction down on the ground that makes the puppy pull on leash. Use your attention noise or a treat lure to get your puppy to turn around and come back to you. Pop, pop. What to do if your puppy doesn't turn around? 1. Practice from further away from the distraction. You can have a helper put down the distraction to make this easier. 2. Use a lower value treat as the distraction and a higher value treat as the reinforcer. Step 3. Put a distraction down on the ground that makes the puppy pull on leash. When the puppy is on a tight leash, move in the opposite direction of the puppy without jerking him. Mark and reinforce when you see your puppy turn in your direction. If the puppy doesn't turn toward you within 2 seconds, use your attention noise or treat lure to get your puppy to turn around and come back to you.
Good boy. Good boy.
Mark the moment the puppy turns towards you and feed the puppy the treat as close to your body as you can to train the puppy to come all the way to you. Mark and reinforce multiple times for the puppy being at your side or being in front of you before you repeat the exercise. If your puppy sits or lays down, simply revert back to using the treat lure.
So she went out, she felt the leash pressure, and that made her want to come back and not be on a tight leash. Basically, you're teaching the dog when they feel the tight leash, they should come near you to loosen the leash. Now, if you keep proofing this game, your dog is going to generalize it, so you could use different types of food, different types of toys, different types of people and dogs and places to sniff, like a fire hydrant, you're going to teach your dog when they see things they want, the only way to get there is on a loose leash. Hey, Puff-Puffs. So I'm going to move the distraction over here and do the game again. So pressure on the leash, click and feed. What you're not doing is jerking your dog. You're holding the leash against your body to move your dog. Good job. And be careful that you don't back up and trip on something, because that happens to me a lot, especially in public.
Step 4. Practice with different distractions in different situations. I suggest playing this game for 1 to 2 minutes, 10 to 12 times in the first few weeks that you own your new puppy or dog. This is Martina's Border Collie Lumos at 6 months, and you can see he has a positive emotional response when he feels the pressure on the leash, and he knows what to do when he feels the pressure. If you notice your dog starts to pull again, it's a great idea to go back and do brush-up training sessions. Here's an example of working on the leash pressure game with a high-level distraction. If something is too much for your dog, you'll notice that they won't be able to turn away from the distraction. So if this happens, you need to make the distraction less exciting or move further away from the distraction. If you're doing this exercise correctly, you'll find that your puppy will stop pulling altogether. This is a good thing. If he keeps trying to go for the distraction, it means the distraction is too difficult, too close, or you need to spend more time marking and reinforcing him for staying with you after he comes back. In real-life situations, if your puppy starts pulling on leash, you can simply back up until he is on a loose leash, then wait a bit until you have made a connection with him again before walking forward.
Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to support my work, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. You can also become a supporting member of channel Kiko Pup by clicking the join button. See you later. Wishy, can you sit pretty? Can you do both paws?